Amelia Pacy had been born and raised in Granville, Lincolnshire, England, a peaceful middle-class community where she still lived with her family. Her life appeared calm and deeply rooted. She was married to her childhood sweetheart, Jack, and after 18 years together, they had built what looked like a happy, stable home. The couple lived with their two children, a 13-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son, in a 4-bedroom house on Long Cliff Road, one of the area's most pleasant streets. The neighborhood was known for its tidy gardens, friendly residents, and sense of safety. It was the kind of place where everyone knew one another, where neighbors chatted over fences, and where children could still play outside without fear. Jack ran his own plumbing business and spent much of his time traveling around Grand Anthem and nearby towns for jobs. Amelia worked part-time at a nursery about 3 miles from their home. Her caring nature extended beyond her job. She often looked after the neighbor's young daughter after school while the girl's parents were still at work. Every afternoon, except Mondays, the child would come straight to Amelia's house until her parents returned. Amelia was the kind of person everyone described as warm and dependable, someone who made others feel at home. By all accounts, the Pacy family was well-liked and involved in the community. They had lived in the area for years, surrounded by relatives and lifelong friends. Everything about their life seemed ordinary. Steady routines, family dinners, and a home filled with laughter. The morning of September 26, 1994 began as just another peaceful day. The weather was mild and sunny, one of those early autumn days when the air still held a touch of summer warmth. Jack left early for work, heading to a plumbing job across town. Later that morning, the children got ready and went off to school. Around 10 a.m., Amelia drove to the nursery to start her shift. She finished work at 8 p.m. and then stopped by her parents' house for a brief visit before heading into Grantham. At around 2:30 p.m., she was seen doing some shopping in town, and by 2:45, a neighbor spotted her pulling into her driveway in her Audi. What happened next remains a haunting mystery. At 4:15 p.m., Amelia's daughter came home from school. She entered the quiet house, calling out for her mother as she usually did, but there was no reply. She called again, her voice echoing through the rooms, but still nothing, thinking her mother might be outside. She went to check the back door, only to find it locked from the inside. That meant Amelia couldn't have gone out. Uneasy, the girl climbed the stairs, calling out once more. The house was silent. Then she noticed that the bathroom door was closed. She tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. It felt jammed. After pushing harder, she finally managed to force it open, and that's when she saw something that would change her life forever. Amelia was lying on the bathroom floor. Her tights and underwear were around her knees. For a brief moment, the girl thought her mother had fallen ill. In panic, she tried to wake her and then ran to call for help. Paramedics arrived quickly and began CPR, desperately trying to revive her. But when they pulled back Amelia's black sweater, they made a chilling discovery. Marks around her neck, deep and distinct. They were the unmistakable signs of strangulation. They quickly realized that something about the scene didn't fit the pattern of a typical burglary or random attack. There were no signs of forced entry anywhere. Every window was locked, and the back door had been secured from the inside. Investigators concluded that the killer must have entered through the front door. Someone Amelia either knew, trusted, or willingly let inside. Inside the house, nothing seemed out of order. There were no overturned chairs, no broken items, no signs of a struggle. The home was tidy and undisturbed, just as Amelia always kept it. Her turquoise work overalls hung neatly on the back of the bedroom door, and her bed was made. On the bedside table sat half a cup of coffee and an empty chocolate bar wrapper. Small traces of her final moments, suggesting she had come home from work, changed clothes, and taken a quiet moment for herself. Beside her handbag, police found a bottle of nail polish remover, hinting she may have been touching up her nails or removing her makeup before something or someone interrupted her routine. Amelia's body was found in the upstairs bathroom, and despite the clear evidence that she had been strangled, there were no other injuries on her body. There were no defensive wounds, no bruises, and her manicured nails remained perfectly intact. Her upper clothing was undisturbed, leading investigators to believe that she had been caught completely off guard. The attack had been swift and deliberate. The only thing missing from the house was Amelia's new wristwatch, a gift she had bought for herself just 2 months earlier during a holiday in Paris. It was a distinctive piece believed to be one of a kind in the UK. Police suspected that whoever killed her had taken it as a trophy, a chilling reminder of their crime. Detectives scoured the surrounding area for clues. They searched the patch of scrubland beside the property, but found nothing. No weapon, no discarded clothing, no ligature. They interviewed neighbors, postmen, and dog walkers who frequented the nearby paths, but no one had seen or heard anything unusual. It was broad daylight in a quiet, well-populated neighborhood, and yet the killer had seemingly come and gone without leaving a trace. Investigators began to wonder whether the murder had been carefully planned. The timing was unsettling. Amelia had been killed on a Monday, the only day of the week when the neighbor's young daughter didn't come over after school. On any other day, the girl would have arrived around 3:15 p.m. But that Monday, the house was empty. Police theorized that the killer might have known Amelia's routine, perhaps even watched the house in the days leading up to the attack to learn when she was alone. However, given how close-knit the community was, detectives doubted that anyone could have been watching her for long without someone noticing. Then a disturbing detail from the days before her death surfaced. Amelia had told her family about an unsettling encounter that had happened just 3 days earlier on the Friday before her murder. She had been upstairs cleaning when the doorbell rang. Expecting it to be the neighbor's daughter, she shouted for the person to come in. When she came downstairs, she was startled to find not the child, but a scruffy-looking man standing in her hallway. Amelia demanded to know what he was doing there. The man claimed he was lost and looking for directions, saying he entered because she had called out for him to come in. It was an innocent enough excuse, but the encounter left Amelia uneasy. Fortunately, the neighbor's daughter happened to be walking down the street at that exact moment and saw the man enter the house. When he left, their paths crossed, allowing her to get a good look at him, a detail that would later become crucial to the investigation. In the days that followed, police worked tirelessly to connect that mysterious visitor to Amelia's death. But with no fingerprints, no DNA, and no witnesses to the crime itself, the case grew colder by the hour. The image of that unknown man in the horror of what happened behind the closed door of that tidy Lincolnshire home would haunt the community for years to come. The man Amelia encountered that Friday afternoon was described in striking detail. Witnesses said he was of medium height with a stocky build and a ruddy, weathered face, the kind of complexion that suggested he worked outdoors. His cheeks were especially red, standing out even from a distance. He looked to be in his mid-40s and wore a checkered shirt and a pair of overalls, giving the impression of a tradesman or laborer. Another witness came forward, later claiming to have seen both Amelia and a man matching that same description on the very day of the murder. This person reported that around 10 minutes past 3, they saw Amelia driving down the road in her car. Suddenly, a man, the same one with a red face and overalls, stepped into the street. Amelia hit her brakes sharply, waved apologetically, and continued on her way. The man, who had already walked past Amelia's house, then turned around and began walking back in her direction. The witness said they saw Amelia pull into her driveway, but they didn't stay long enough to see what happened next. They couldn't say whether the man followed her inside, kept walking, or disappeared altogether. Still, they were certain it had been Amelia behind the wheel, and certain the man was the same one seen days earlier standing inside her home. Investigators took note of the statement, but did not treat it as strongly as other leads. Even so, it seemed to connect two unsettling moments: the encounter on Friday and Amelia's murder on Monday. Police began to theorize that both incidents involved the same man, a stranger who may have been watching her movements more closely than anyone realized. At the time, there was renovation work happening at the end of Longcliffe Road. Builders were frequently seen around the area, coming and going with their tools and vans. Police thought it was possible that the man in overalls, as he became known, might have been one of them. Another theory suggested he wasn't a builder at all, but someone pretending to be one, using the overalls as a disguise to blend in with the workers nearby. Officers visited local construction sites, speaking to foremen and laborers, showing them the witness descriptions, but no one recognized him. Detectives couldn't shake the strange nature of that first meeting on Friday. Why had the man knocked on Amelia's door to ask for directions? So, there were people on the street, shops nearby, and plenty of easier ways to find his way around. It was the kind of excuse that didn't make sense. Something people rarely do unless they're looking for more than directions. Police began to suspect that the Friday visit might not have been innocent at all. It could have been a failed attempt, a moment when the man had planned to attack her but lost his nerve. Perhaps he left, spent the weekend thinking about what he hadn't done, and returned on Monday, determined to finish what he started. It was only a theory, but it fit the timeline. The mystery deepened when, despite national attention, the man never came forward. If he truly had been looking for directions, police reasoned, he would have had every reason to identify himself once his description was made public. But he remained silent. The press began referring to him simply as Overalls Man. His image and stocky build, red cheeks, checkered shirt became the focal point of one of Lincolnshire's most haunting unsolved mysteries. Police grew increasingly convinced that his silence wasn't out of fear or confusion. It was because he had something terrible to hide. In the days between Amelia's strange encounter on Friday and her tragic death the following Monday, several people claimed to have seen the same man around Grand Anthem. He was spotted in a local park and again inside a small shop where his behavior caught the attention of the assistant behind the counter. Witnesses said he stood unusually close, his manner tense and aggressive, the kind of presence that made people uneasy. That image of the stocky man with red cheeks and overalls lingered in everyone's memory, and soon it became a critical piece of the investigation. When detectives reviewed everything they had, the picture of the crime scene remained as baffling as ever. Amelia's house had been perfectly locked up, windows secured, the back door bolted from the inside, and only the front door's status uncertain. Investigators were certain of one thing: the killer had either walked in freely or been let in by Amelia herself. Once inside, he strangled her, likely in the bathroom, and then quietly left. The most chilling part was how calm the scene appeared. Nothing was out of place, nothing broken, and no sign that a struggle had taken place. Amelia's manicure was still flawless, not a single nail chipped or broken, a detail that deeply disturbed detectives. It suggested she hadn't fought back at all. Forensic experts later concluded that the attack was quick, efficient, and executed with an almost clinical precision. Whoever had done this, they believed, was organized and experienced, likely someone with a history of sexual violence or previous assaults. Police collected DNA from the scene, and 2 decades later, in 2014, announced they had finally developed a nearly complete genetic profile. Hopes were high that new technology would finally reveal the killer's identity. But when the DNA was run through national databases, the results came back empty. No matches. This meant the man had never been arrested in the UK between 1995 and 2014. Or perhaps, as police feared, he was already dead. Still, they made renewed public appeals, hoping someone might recognize the man or come forward with long-forgotten information. Another strange detail emerged during the investigation. Around the time of Amelia's murder, a blue BMW, possibly a 5 Series, had been seen parked on her driveway. Police issued appeals for the owner or anyone who recognized the vehicle, but no one came forward and the lead went nowhere. From the very start, detectives cleared Amelia's husband, Jack. His alibi checked out completely. He had been at a plumbing job on the other side of town at the time of the murder. That ruled him out. But what came next added a bizarre twist to the story. In 1994, a televised reconstruction of the crime was produced for the BBC program Crime Watch. A 34-year-old man named Steve Watson applied for the role of the killer and got the part. When the episode aired, viewers were stunned. Steve looked almost identical to the police's composite sketch of the real suspect. The resemblance was so uncanny that people on the street began whispering that he must be the murderer himself. Steve brushed off the rumors at first, thinking it was just gossip from people who didn't realize he was an actor in a reenactment. Then, more than 20 years later, in 2018, Crime Watch re-aired the episode. By then, Steve was 53. People in his town recognized him from the old broadcast, panicked, and called the police, believing the actual killer had just walked past them. Steve was arrested and had his DNA taken for comparison. Throughout the ordeal, he maintained his innocence, insisting he had simply been an actor playing a role. When the forensic results came back, they confirmed what he'd said all along. Steve Watson was not the killer. His DNA did not match the genetic profile recovered from Amelia's crime scene. The police admitted that although it had been necessary to investigate such a strong resemblance, it turned out to be nothing more than a chilling coincidence. The case, however, remains one of the most disturbing unsolved murders in Lincolnshire. Even after decades, investigators and locals are haunted by the same questions. How could someone commit such a controlled, silent attack without leaving any trace of struggle? How could Amelia, a healthy, alert woman, have been overpowered so completely? To this day, no one has been charged. The identity of the man with the red cheeks and overalls. Overalls Man, as he became known, remains a mystery. The only clues are fragments of memory, a strand of DNA, and a town that never forgot the horror that unfolded behind one locked door on Long Cliff Road. Thanks for watching Hidden Story.